climate change affects us because we are actually affected every day by climate and weather. So if you think about it, if you want to grow, say, mangoes or bananas in Tasmania, it's not going to work. Why is it not going to work? Well, it's obvious, because the climate's wrong. The only way you could grow mangoes or bananas in Tasmania is you would have to build a special facility that provides the right climate for those plants to occur in, but you've got to be, very warm and, tropical. So why climate change is important is because it means that all of the plants and animals and the agriculture and the industries and the houses and everything that we've got, that what we would use the technical word are suited or adapted to our climate, which is a temperate climate. We've got cold winters and warm summers, and we've got a certain pattern of rainfall. Well, if that all starts getting jumbled up, everything becomes very fast, jumbled up very fast. That becomes really confusing, and that the structures we've built aren't really fit for purpose anymore, because the bridges were built assuming that rivers would flow in a particular way. Suddenly, the rivers are flowing, these huge floods that we were never expecting. And in the case of bushfires, we have plants and animals that are adapted to particular, what we would call the technical word, fire regimes, a particular pattern of intensity and frequency of fires. And if that suddenly changes and the fires are becoming, say, more intense and more frequent, then there's going to be massive changes in the landscape. There's going to be threats to our infrastructure, our livelihoods, our way of life. People are going to be put into danger. And the only remedy for this problem, there's two approaches. In the very short term, we've got to change. It's like a mad scramble. We've got to strengthen our bridges. We've got to change the landscape to be less flammable. We've got to make houses that are more resistant to fire. But you can only do so much of that. If you keep changing and keep changing and keep changing, then eventually, you go bankrupt. And so what the obvious thing to do is to stop the climate changing, to stabilize the climate. And then you've got to go to the root cause of climate change. And you've got to think very deeply about, well, why is the climate changing? And then you've got to realize that humans have been using the atmosphere as a garbage can for all of these gases. They were just burning fossil fuels and thinking, well, the atmosphere is a big place. We could just put all this smoke and gas into the atmosphere. It's impossible to imagine you could affect the atmosphere. But if you do that at a massive scale, and you're digging up coal and you're pumping oil out at a massive scale, and you're having millions and millions of people every day burning carbon that had been locked away in the earth for literally millions and millions of years, they're big numbers. Millions of years and millions of people means that you actually can change the atmosphere. And if you change the atmosphere, guess what? You start changing the climate. So it's not all doom and gloom. Two simple things to do. You got to start adapting to the climate change that's now baked in, and we are going to see hotter temperatures. And we've also got to really very quickly in your lifetime, we have to decarbonize. And so, this is actually something you will be able to remember and tell your children and your grandchildren that, oh, I was the generation when decarbonisation happened. Those silly people in the past, they used to dig up these rocks that were flammable and burn them and pollute the atmosphere. How stupid was that? And now we've got all of these renewable energy systems that we use, and like, how stupid were they? We had to go through a transition, and my generation, your generation, that's what you'll be saying to your children. We went through that transition. I remember that. It was an exciting time, and aren't we lucky that we did that transition?